So Jillian will be repeating my short phrases so folks understand me.
So Jillian will be repeating my short phrases so everyone can understand me. I'm Jillian.
John, was I phrase too long?
Jillian, was my phrase too long? I don't know. Did I get it wrong?
No, you did perfectly, of course.
No, you did perfectly, of course. Results not typical.
Johnny is super duper amazing.
Jillian is super duper amazing.
Johnny is super duper amazing.
Jillian is super amazing.
Ah, beautiful duper.
Ah, you left out duper.
I have about 7 home care workers.
I have about 7 home care workers.
And Jillian is here helping me.
And Jillian is here helping me.
And behind the scenes on his own time, Ian is helping me.
And behind the scenes on his own time, Ian is helping me.
Do we need to admit someone in the waiting room?
Do we need to admit someone in the waiting room?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, funny.
Funny?
Let's see. So we'll start at 7. Let's stop the share.
Let's stop the share.
And
ready? Here we go. Good morning. Nope. Good afternoon, everyone.
Well, let's start again.
Cut. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Alternatives Workshop, Green Disability. My name is Jillian, and I will be your Zoom host facilitator for this workshop. Please note that we are recording this workshop. If you'd rather be incognito, either turn off your camera or change your name, whatever makes you feel comfortable. We ask participants to keep themselves on mute. If you have questions or comments for presenters, please use the chat box or raise your hand either physically or by clicking raise hand. We will read your questions and may have time for asking questions live later in the presentation. We ask participants to please honor the conference comfort-discomfort agreement. Take care of yourself, be respectful, curiosity over judgment, keep an open mind, lean into discomfort, and if you can, listen actively.
Well, welcome everybody.
Well, welcome everybody.
And I'm using my nifty new contraption.
I'm using my nifty new contraption.
So hello. I'm David W. Oakes.
So I'm David W. Oakes.
This is Jillian.
This is Jillian.
She'll repeat me. So welcome everybody.
Welcome everybody.
So I'm gonna speak a little bit and then we'll do some slides.
So I'm going to speak a little bit and then we'll do some slides.
And we'll turn off the slides. I'll speak a little more.
And then I'll turn off the slides and I'll speak a little more.
And we'll try to have time to interact of the Zoom.
And we'll try to have time to interact over the Zoom.
So yesterday was International Mad Pride Day.
Yesterday was International Mad Pride Day.
July 14th, Bastille Day.
July 14th, Bastille Day.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And I had the wonderful experience of being at Mad Freedom's Zoom.
I had the wonderful, wonderful experience of being on Mad Freedom's Zoom.
They're a new group based in Vermont,
They're a new group based in Vermont,
led by Wilda White,
and
we celebrated Mad Pride Day
and we celebrated Mad Pride Day
and watched Cured, the documentary about LGBT liberation.
and watched Cured, the documentary about LGBT liberation.
Yeah, and this month is Mad Pride Month,
Yeah, and this month is Mad Pride Month.
all month.
All month.
And at the back scenes, Ian is championing Mad Pride Month
And in the back scenes, Ian is championing Mad Pride Month
and helping on this workshop.
and helping on this workshop.
Today is the birthday of my friend, late Leonard Roy Frank.
Today is the birthday of my late friend, Leonard Roy Frank.
And July 15th,
And July 15th,
yeah,
Yeah.
is the last day of International Association for the better make it shorter. Okay, this week has been Creative Maladjustment Week.
This week has been Creative Maladjustment Week.
And I want Leonard's birthday today to be the 8th day of that week.
And I want Leonard's birthday to be the 8th day of that week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Martin Luther King
Martin Luther King
said over and over and over again in at least 10 speeches.
said over and over and over again in at least 10 speeches.
He called for the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment.
He called for the International Advancement of Creative, the International Association for the Creative Advancement of Maladjustment.
You know, this illustrates something. You're very smart, Jillian.
This illustrates something. You're very smart, Jillian.
But even MLK could not make this fly.
But even MLK could not make this fly.
Okay, I'll repeat it.
Okay, I'll repeat it.
Slowly, word by word.
Slowly, word by word.
International
Association
for the advancement
of
creative
maladjustment.
So all week that's been celebrated.
So all week that's been celebrated.
Let me give my workshop slides. Get these going.
Let me give my workshop slides and get these going.
So it shares green on the bottom, then blue share on the right, then present. Okay, so we're going to be covering green disability.
So we're going to be covering green disability.
This is a concept I've put out.
This is a concept I've put out.
Yeah, but it's based on something we all know.
But it's based on something we all know.
Using peer support.
Using peer support.
To unite our movements.
To unite our movements.
So just click on the screen.
Here.
And so welcome to International Mad Pride Month.
So welcome to International Mad Pride Month.
All month.
All month.
No. Click X. So as I let Roy Frank, his birthday was today.
Leonard Roy Frank's birthday was today.
Shock survivor.
Shock survivor.
Friend.
Friend.
Author.
author,
spiritual leader,
and
a wonderful fighter,
a wonderful fighter,
torture survivor, a Leonard International Creative Maladjustment Week includes you.
Hey Leonard, International Creative Maladjustment Week includes you.
Next. So briefly, things are screwed up.
So briefly, things are screwed up.
Have you noticed?
Have you noticed?
Okay, I won't dwell on this.
Okay, I won't dwell on this.
But get COVID, climate extinction.
But COVID, climate extinction,
homelessness, political repression, oppression of marginalized and disempowered.
Oppression of marginalized and disempowered.
That's how I define mad.
And that's how I define mad.
CSX. Consumer survivor ex-inmate.
Consumer survivor ex-inmate.
BIPOC. And LGBT. And more. Okay. So things are pretty bad,
so
folks.
Things are pretty bad, folks.
Now, one of the leaders in fighting climate crisis. is Greta. And Greta identifies as someone with autism.
And Greta identifies as someone with autism.
On the spectrum. She calls it her superpower. When she was younger, she had extremely severe issues.
When she was younger, she had extremely severe issues.
We're talking about eating disorders. Screaming. Only being able to be with close family.
Enormous problems.
And she credits that with her ability to see through what we call normality. She's a key leader right now in the world. In the Earth's biggest crisis.
One of us.
Next. Here's the concept of green disability. You may recognize upper left. A wonderful planet.
It's a wonderful planet.
Very unique. Maybe the only one of its kind. So much had to happen for us to be here. The moon and on and on. But it's a great planet. I love our planet. Upper right, you see a wheelchair. I'm in a wheelchair. That individual's Black Lives Matter.
That individual is black. Black lives matter.
The third one bottom is 4 arrows.
That third one on the bottom is 4 arrows.
You may recognize the recycling arrows. But we're adding a keyword. Revolution. Now next slide. A way for you to easily remember these 3 points. Ear. I'm listening to you.
I'm listening to you.
You're listening to me. me.
You're listening to me.
Earth is the E here.
Earth is the E here. Earth.
Now, everybody, modern humanity,
Now, everybody, modern humanity,
100%
100%
is a major ego impairment.
has a major ego or eco?
Ego and both, but ego impairment.
Eco impairment.
It threatens all life.
It threatens all life.
In fact, we keep the feedback loops triggered
In fact, if we keep the feedback loops triggered
without revolution.
Stephen Hawking predicted
that we may risk boiling oceans. But it won't come to that because we will have a revolution.
But it won't come to that because we will have a revolution.
And by the way, I am not at all like Stephen Hawking.
And by the way, I am not at all like Stephen Hawking.
Might be smart, but I couldn't read his book.
I might be smart, but I couldn't read his book.
Now the A to remember for ear is access.
Now the A to remember for ear is access.
We people in the disability movement.
We people in the disability movement.
We need to unite with other marginalized and disempowered voices.
We need to unite with other marginalized and disempowered voices.
We need to be side by side.
We need to be side by side
with BIPOC.
With BIPOC.
And with LGBT.
And with LGBT.
We need to be side by side, shoulder to shoulder.
We need to be side by side, shoulder to shoulder.
And I, by the way, must acknowledge the seized land of indigenous people.
And by the way, I must acknowledge the
land seized from indigenous
the land seized people. From indigenous people.
Here and all over the world.
Here and all over the world.
Also, we need to unite with eco movements.
Also, we need to unite with eco movements.
For instance, Extinction Rebellion.
For instance, Extinction Rebellion.
A disability caucus.
Has a disability caucus.
So we need to remember accessing, for instance, disaster prep.
So we need to remember accessing, for instance, disaster prep.
And disaster prep, they often talk about how to include people with disabilities.
In disaster prep, they often talk about how to include people with disabilities.
And finally, the third part of green disability.
And finally, the third part of green disability.
The R in ear.
Is the R in ear.
You recognize, reduce, reuse, recycle.
You recognize, reduce, reuse, recycle.
Please include revolution.
Please include revolution.
There may be some of you who oppose revolution.
There may be some of you who oppose revolution.
But almost everybody I talk to supports some kind of revolution.
But almost everybody I talk to supports some kind of revolution.
They might ask, oh, what kind of revolution?
They might ask, oh, what kind of revolution?
Well, good start to the conversation.
Well, good start to the conversation.
Do you want a peaceful one?
Do you want a peaceful one?
Not peaceful.
Not peaceful?
Let's at least say we want a revolution.
Let's at least say now. We want a revolution now.
Use the R word.
Use the R word.
Revolution.
Revolution.
Use it.
Use it.
Say it.
Say it.
We need to help lead.
We need to help lead.
The current society is hypnotized.
The current society is hypnotized.
They're under a spell of normality.
They are under a spell of normality.
We can break the spell.
We can break the spell.
Next. So we know the small mutual peer support groups.
So we
have
know that
helped us.
small mutual peer support groups have helped us.
So now everybody can use that.
So now everybody can use that.
Remember, all modern humanity
And remember, all modern humanity
has the most severe disabilities
has the most severe disabilities
in the history of humanity.
in the history of humanity.
We've had 10,000 years.
We've had 10,000 years
And we've waited too long.
and we've waited too long.
By the way, on Netflix, be sure to see Breaking Boundaries
By the way, on Netflix, be sure to see Breaking Boundaries
by David Attenborough
by David Attenborough
to understand why we've had 10,000 years.
to understand why we've had 10,000
now-
years.
Feedback loops threaten us
But now feedback loops threaten us
worse than we predicted.
worse than we predicted.
But peer support can help us look at this difficulty.
But peer support groups can help us look at this difficulty.
Next. So everyone, we encourage your leadership.
So everyone, we encourage your leadership.
There's an earth emergency.
There's an earth emergency.
There is one topic now.
There is one topic now.
Next. So here in Lane County,
Here in Lane County,
Oregon,
Oregon,
I had a great experience
I've had a great experience
as a pet consultant
as a paid consultant
working on our climate equity and resilience task force.
working on our climate equity and resilience task force.
This is a way to help include vulnerable people
This is a way to help include vulnerable
who
people
maybe who are already being hurt by climate crisis,
who maybe are already being hurt by climate crisis.
like the pandemic is climate crisis
Please repeat.
related, like the pandemic.
Like the pandemic,
Only a few cities have this,
only a few cities have
But-
this,
it showed that we can do this.
but it showed that we can do this.
Mad folks and disabled folks can work with others.
Mad folks and disabled folks can work with others,
Next, with other vulnerable folks.
with other vulnerable folks.
And when you combine mad and disability,
When you combine mad and disability,
you get mad ability.
you get mad ability.
What's your mad ability?
What's your mad ability?
We've seen Greta. We know what Greta has done.
We've seen Greta. We know what Greta has done.
We all can do that. Greta has told us.
We all can do that. Greta has told us.
We can do that.
We can do that.
What's your mad ability?
What's your mad ability?
Next. So we're gonna, in a few minutes, be sharing our stories.
So
and
we're gonna, in a
questions.
few minutes, be sharing our stories and questions.
So think about us,
So think about this,
and we'll keep it brief
And we'll keep it brief
and ask questions.
and ask questions.
Next. And I love you all. Lead on.
I love you all. Lead on.
And last few years, I've created a True Institute.
In the last few years, I've created Achu Institute.
I've worked in our field for 45 years.
I've worked in our field for 45 years.
And 9 years ago, had a severe accident.
And 9 years ago, had a severe accident.
But a few years ago, I've created a business.
But a few years ago, I created a business.
Ačiū means thank you in Lithuanian.
Ačiū means thank you in Lithuanian.
I'm Lithuanian heritage.
I have Lithuanian heritage.
Both my grandfathers were gold miners.
Both of my grandfathers were coal miners.
For a total of 31 years.
For a total of 31 years.
So please feel free to email me.
So please feel free to email me.
My email address is revolution@achu.info.
My email address is revolution@achu.info.
Okay, you can hit escape and stop sharing. So, a few more comments and then we'll have questions.
So a few more comments and then we'll have questions.
I am very honored.
I'm very honored.
In today's Alternatives 2021
In 2 days, Alternatives 2021
is honoring me with a Lifetime Achievement Award.
is honoring me with a Lifetime Achievement Award.
I've gone to many alternatives conferences.
I've gone to many alternatives conferences.
Yes, I'm a radical psychiatric survivor.
Yes, I'm a radical psychiatric survivor.
But I've always felt welcome by everybody.
But I've always felt welcomed by everybody.
Even Fred Fries.
Even Fred Fries
was our only opponent at our event ever met.
Who is our only opponent at our event that I ever met.
He died a few years ago.
He died a few years ago.
But even Fred was wonderful and warm and loving.
But even Fred was wonderful and warm and loving.
By the way, Fred told me something about his past.
And by the way, Fred told me something about his past.
He almost had forced electroshock.
He almost had forced electroshock.
So even though he was on a board of a group that opposed us.
So even though he was on the board of a group that opposed us.
When they began talking about forced shock.
When they began talking about forced shock.
He confronted Tory and Treatment Advocacy Center.
He confronted Tory and Treatment Advocacy Center.
Right, and stopped their support of forced shock.
And stopped their support of forced shock.
Which still goes on today.
Which still goes on today.
So I'd like to encourage a new PC.
So I'd like to
encourage a new PC.
Encourage a new PC.
The old PC was just a joke.
The old PC was just a joke.
But this new PC is positive craziness.
But the new PC is positive craziness.
How do we break the spell of normality?
How do we break the spell of normality?
Through peer support.
Through peer support.
Some folks say, I'm not disabled, I'm not disabled.
Some folks say, I'm not disabled. I'm not disabled.
However, think about our movement.
Think about our movement.
We say that force shock causes disability.
We say that forced shock causes disability.
Solitary confinement.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Ian.
We're using a Zoom chat.
We're using Zoom chat, not webinar.
So it might take a stop Zoom bombers.
So it might take a moment to stop Zoom bombers. We say that forced shock causes disability.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All these
solitary confinement causes disability.
All these oppressions.
All these oppressions
cause disability.
Cause disability.
So you bet we need to connect closely with the disability movement.
So we need to connect closely with the disability movement.
Even if you reject your label.
Even if we reject your label.
Even if you reject.
Even if you reject your label.
Also, some people say, I'm not mad, I'm normal.
Also, some people say, I'm not mad, I'm normal.
Hey, we have room for everybody.
Hey, we have room for everybody here.
If you think you're normal, you're welcome.
If you think you're normal, you're welcome.
If you think you're the Easter Bunny, you're welcome.
If you think you're the Easter Bunny, you're welcome.
But we reject negative normality.
But we reject negative normality.
Like white supremacy.
Like white supremacy.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
You're not in our movement.
You're not in our movement.
You are an opponent. We will accountably deconstruct racism.
You're not in our movement. We will accountably deconstruct you.
Dismantle racism.
Dismantle racism.
And other oppressions.
And other oppressions.
But everybody else, we're all in the movement together.
But everybody else, we're all in movement together.
Positive normality.
Positive normality.
Positive craziness.
Positive craziness.
You're in.
You're in.
Okay. Oh, well, I could go on and on.
Okay, well, I could go on and on.
You folks.
But I want to hear from you folks.
Can we look in the chat?
Yes.
Are there any questions we trust, Jillian?
Let's see. Do you want me to start at the top or the bottom?
Top.
Go to the top. Let's see.
You can make it all screen.
Sure.
And do you see any Jillian or?
I'm looking. What was that Netflix film again?
Oh, yeah. It was David Attenborough.
Breaking Boundaries by David Attenborough.
Boundaries.
Thanks for answering that, Ian.
Thank you. Super flick. Must be. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
How do folks feel about adopting a plant-based diet as one practical way to address climate change and the seizure destruction of habitat?
Okay, very good question. Very good question. Please repeat.
Oh, repeat the question?
Very good question.
Someone in chat asked, how do folks feel about adopting a plant-based diet as one practical way to address climate change and the seizure/destruction of habitat?
So in answer, Deborah, my wife, and I have tried to adopted a far more plant-based diet.
So Deborah, my wife, and I have adopted a far more plant-based diet.
For instance, I love sushi with fish.
For instance, I love sushi with
But
fish,
no more sushi with fish.
but no more sushi with fish.
However, if we find some holistic produced meat,
However, if we find some holistically produced meat,
we have a little bit of it.
we have a little bit of it.
But we do try to have more plant-based and mythism. Let's find out for any other questions.
But we do try to eat more plant-based. Okay. Here, do you want me to read this out loud?
Sure.
I would like to discuss this further. I am one of those persons who says I am not presently disabled. Professionals tried to label me as such, told me I would never be able to work and I would need to take meds for the rest of my life. I strive not to be ableist, and I feel it is okay for people to self-identify as such. Does not bother me in the least, but I would never describe myself as normal. Normal as a setting on the washing machine. I guess that's not a question, it's more of a comment.
Yeah, we need a question mark at the end of the question. But John, let me say that many folks say I am not currently disabled.
Many folks say I am not currently disabled.
However, if you're a modern human,
like if you have
a smartphone like I do here,
like if you have a smartphone like I do here,
then you may feel you're not disabled. However, modern humanity is currently extremely disabled.
However, modern humanity is extremely disabled
by
any definition.
So I was also labeled forcibly drugged.
So I was also labeled forcibly drugged.
I reject that.
I reject that.
I was labeled psychotic.
I was labeled psychotic. I reject that.
However, think about the fact that the real meaning of psychosis is spiritual illness.
However, think about the fact that the real meaning of psychosis is spiritual illness.
I would argue that all modern humanity
shares
a kind of spiritual sickness. Something to think about.
So that's something to think about.
Anyway,
here's a question.
Our movement is open to folks, however they define themselves.
Anyway, our movement is open to folks, however they define themselves. Here's a question from the chat. What was your mad ability moment that brought you into the forefront of rallying for eco causes? Do you have any recommendations on documentaries or organizations I can help the individuals I support to help them in joining the revolution?
Wow, great question.
Wow, great question.
I will definitely email that to everybody.
I will definitely email that to everybody.
Be sure to put your email address in the chat.
Please be sure to put your email address in the chat.
But I would say key moment for me. Is identifying with my ancient heritage. Even though I cannot speak Lithuanian. My family gave me a lot of support.
During crisis.
And Lithuanians were the last group to leave paganism in Europe.
And Lithuanians were the last group to leave paganism in Europe.
Since my fall, I've become a Unitarian Universalist.
Since my fall, I've become Unitarian Universalist.
Our church has adopted what you call the eighth principle.
Our church has adopted what we call the eighth principle.
To dismantle racism.
To dismantle racism.
And other oppression.
And other oppressions.
So I knew you have other questions.
So do we have other questions? Yes, we do. How should we deal with the current pathologization of reasonable responses to climate change? For instance, many psychiatrists, including the one I've seen recently, are using the terms climate grief and climate anxiety. Who are these people who aren't either sad or worried about the climate? Yeah.
A challenge with fighting psychiatric oppression.
A challenge with fighting psychiatric oppression
is remembering the oppression word.
Is remembering the oppression word.
We have many people in our movement who are simply anti-psychiatry.
We have many people in our movement who are simply anti-psychiatry.
That's okay.
And that's okay.
But actually, we're anti-psychiatric oppression.
But actually, we're anti-psychiatric oppression.
I've got many close friends who are psychiatrists.
I've had many close friends who are psychiatrists.
For 9 years, I've seen a psychologist.
For 9 years, I've seen a psychologist.
PTSD.
For PTSD.
So a challenge is that actually we humans do need support.
So a challenge is that we humans do need support.
We often need alternatives.
We often need alternatives.
And it's funny that some extreme anti-psychiatrists.
And it's funny that some extreme anti-psychiatrists
would care about voluntary activity behind closed doors.
Would care about voluntary activity behind closed doors.
I'm a mental health consumer, folks.
I'm a mental health consumer, folks.
And if you do not like that,
and if you do not like that,
good luck meditating.
Good luck meditating.
Next.
I don't see any more questions as such in the chat.
Let's open the Zoom. Okay. So raise your hand.
So raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question.
How does that work?
There's a little button you click.
Yeah.
Under reactions, I believe.
No. I think it's next.
Reverend Luke and Paul Audenstein have their hands up right now.
Can you remember paying?
Yeah, I can do my best. Hold on.
Thank you. Oh yeah, both Reverend Luke and Paul, I know.
Oh, hi, David. It's good to see you. You know,
hi, Paul.
And I'm glad you're still able to fight against psychiatric oppression and other things.
You're still able to also.
I'm glad you're still able to also.
Right.
Way to go, Paul.
So please be brief.
So please be brief.
Yeah. It takes a lot of strength to do what you did, and get up on the.
Get up for you.
I just wanted to mention one thing, which is sort of a little bit depressing, that the Ruby Rogers Center is no longer going at this point. The Department of Mental Health stopped funding it because they're funding a different type of program. But I think it was good, and I know you were also involved with it in the beginning and stuff.
Thank you, Paul.
I helped start it. But can you ask your question?
But can you ask your question, my friend?
Oh, well, I just wanted to sort of say hello, and I guess the question would be, are drop-in centers, do you still think they're a good form of advocacy or support for people.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, and feel free to briefly share a story or news.
Yes, and feel free to briefly share a story or
Folks.
news.
Don't have to ask a question.
Folks, you don't have to ask a question, but
yes,
yes.
I think community centers are crucial.
I think community centers are crucial.
However, one of them in Eugene, the staff actually called security.
The staff actually called security on me.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
David Oakes,
who started some of the first ones. Very odd.
Very odd.
The reason I did was simply asking a question.
And the reason they did is that I was simply asking a question.
Totally wrong.
Totally wrong.
So watch for this. I gotta write about this bizarre experience.
So watch for this. I'm going to write about this bizarre experience.
Remember Lila.
But remember Lila?
Lila.
Lila.
And perhaps be Liela.
And perhaps it should be Liela.
I generally very much support independent living centers.
But I generally very much support
Extremely.
independent living centers, extremely, nationally.
Can I just say one more thing and then I'll give somebody else
Sure.
a chance in this? I mean, the problem with the Ruby Rogers Center is that after a while it stopped doing advocacy, and trying to, stop abuse and oppression in the mental health system. And I think it's I think that's been the problem with a lot of the movement.
Almost out of time.
Paul, we're almost out of time.
Okay, I'll let somebody else.